Ever get the feeling like you're juggling way too many things? Like you got all these talents, but you got to pick just one.
Well,
Imagine being so talented you could revolutionize medicine
oh, wow.
or architecture,
Okay.
but you chose bricks over bodies because it paid better.
Interesting.
That's just one of the surprising things we'll uncover about Christopher Wren in this deep dive.
Sounds fascinating.
You sent us a pretty in-depth academic bio
Uh-huh.
and a really cool podcast interview.
Right.
And honestly, it's clear Wren was way more than just the guy who built St. Paul's Cathedral.
Right.
Today, we're going to uncover the man behind the monuments,
Okay.
the triumphs,
Yeah.
the frustrations,
This whole
the
picture.
complexities of this architectural genius.
What's really captivating about Wren is that he kind of embodies that whole spirit of his age,
Uh-huh.
the scientific revolution, born in 1632.
Wow.
He was dissecting dogs as a kid,
What?
trying to understand the spleen, building a model of Saturn's rings before anyone even knew they existed.
No way.
This wasn't just some hobby.
Yeah.
He was a genuine prodigy.
It's mind-blowing to think he could have been a medical trailblazer,
Right.
but then fate kind of steps in. The Great Fire of London in 1666
Yeah.
completely reshaped the city
It did.
and Wren's destiny.
Exactly. The fire was a total catalyst.
Yeah.
It destroyed so much of London,
I think.
including St. Paul's Cathedral.
Right.
And this is really where Wren's architectural genius shines.
Yeah.
But as we'll see, the path to creating his masterpiece
Right.
was paved with compromises
Okay.
and power struggles.
Before we get to St. Paul's,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Sheldonian Theater at Oxford.
Okay.
Wren's first major architectural project.
Interesting.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This building,
Mm-hmm.
designed to be a symbol of religious authority, seems to kind of contradict the whole scientific thinking that Wren championed.
That's an interesting point.
How do we square that circle?
It really highlights that tension between faith and reason that defined 17th century England. The Sheldonian, with its elaborate ceiling, depicting religious authority,
Yeah.
triumphing over competing ideologies.
Okay.
It was a statement.
Right.
But for Wren, a man of science, to design a building that almost symbolizes the suppression of scientific thought,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder
Right.
about that inner conflict.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder if he felt like he was betraying his scientific roots,
Yeah.
even as he was creating this masterpiece.
Right.
So we have this scientific mind
Uh-huh.
thrust into the world of architecture by a devastating fire.
Yeah.
Let's talk about St. Paul's Cathedral.
Okay.
Wren gets the commission,
Right.
but designing the new cathedral was anything but straightforward.
Oh, you could say that.
Right.
It was a battle royale.
Really?
The fire had ravaged the old St. Paul's,
Uh-huh.
and Wren saw this as an opportunity to create something truly magnificent.
Right.
But he faced opposition
From?
from the church, the king.
Wow.
Everyone had an opinion.
Okay. So Wren unveils this grand vision.
Right.
It's a classically inspired dome basilica,
Uh-huh.
a masterpiece in the making,
Yeah.
and the dean and chapter,
Okay.
who are essentially the cathedral's board of directors.
Right.
They weren't exactly thrilled, were they?
Not quite.
Right.
A dome basilica evoked comparisons to Catholic architecture,
Ah.
a sensitive issue in post-Reformation England.
Right.
Plus, the scale and complexity of Wren's design
Yeah.
meant it would take decades to complete.
Oh, wow.
They wanted something simpler.
And that's where the warrant design comes in.
Exactly. This seemingly uninspired design
Yeah.
that Wren presented,
Yes.
knowing they'd reject it.
Precisely the warrant design.
Yeah.
It was a masterpiece of political maneuvering.
Wow.
Wren knew the dean and chapter wanted a traditional cruciform layout.
A simple dome,
Uh-huh.
nothing too flashy.
Right.
So he gave them exactly that.
So he basically played 4D chess with them.
You could say that.
That's incredible.
And it worked.
It did.
King Charles II, bless his heart,
Okay.
signed off on the warrant design,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
included this little clause
Okay.
giving Wren the freedom to make ornamental changes.
That little clause was Wren's golden ticket.
It was!
It allowed him to build the cathedral he truly envisioned,
Yes.
leaving the dean and chapter fuming
Oh, I bet.
when they saw the dome rising skyward.
I can
I
imagine.
bet they regretted that clause.
For sure.
But hold on, didn't Wren have some pretty radical ideas for the royal palaces too?
Absolutely. He envisioned a completely revamped Whitehall Palace.
Wow.
A brand new palace at Winchester.
Really?
Even a classical makeover for Hampton Court. But more often than not,
Yeah.
his grand visions were met with budget constraints.
Right.
Or shall we say,
Yeah.
royal indifference.
It sounds like Wren, this visionary architect,
Uh-huh.
was constantly butting heads with the establishment.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how he managed to get anything built at all.
Well, he was a consummate politician, as our podcast expert called him. Wren knew how to navigate the treacherous waters of courtly life,
Right.
securing just enough patronage to keep his projects afloat.
Okay.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing,
Right.
especially with those ambitious palace plans.
Speaking of ambitious,
Yeah.
let's not forget that alongside those grand designs, Wren was also tasked with rebuilding dozens of churches after the Great Fire.
Right.
I mean, St. Paul's is one thing,
Yeah.
but over 80 churches.
Wow.
That's a whole city to reshape.
It really is, and it highlights another side of Wren. His incredible organizational skills and his ability to manage a vast team of architects and craftsmen. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Wren was the Norman Foster of his day, leading a team of talented designers, shaping the look of an entire city.
It boggles the mind.
It does.
And did he design each and every one of those churches himself?
Not necessarily every detail,
Okay.
but his influence is undeniable.
Right.
He developed a variety of architectural solutions, experimenting with different shapes and sizes, incorporating elements of classical design, but always adapting to the needs of each parish.
Wow.
He even invented a new type of steeple.
Really?
The Wren steeple.
Oh, wow.
Which became a signature feature of London's skyline.
Right, those beautiful tiered steeples you see all over London. I never knew they were a Wren thing.
They are.
It's like he left his fingerprints all over the city.
He did.
Even in the smallest details.
Exactly. But even with all of this,
Yeah.
the podcast interview hints that Wren might have seen architecture as
what?
Almost a distraction from his true calling.
Really?
You see, he considered medicine to be far more important than what he called rubbish architecture.
Wait, hold on. He called his life's work rubbish.
He did.
That's pretty harsh. Even for a self-critical genius.
It does seem contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This incredibly talented, successful architect who deep down felt he was meant for something else entirely. It speaks to the complexity of his character and the weight of unrealized potential.
That's a heavy thought.
It is.
Makes you wonder, what could he have achieved if he'd focused on medicine?
Right.
Could he have revolutionized healthcare as we know it?
It's a tantalizing what if that we can only speculate about.
Right.
But it's also important to remember that Wren was a product of his time. In 17th century England, architecture offered more tangible rewards, both financially and socially. Perhaps his choice wasn't as simple as just following his passion.
That's a good point.
It is.
But even if he saw architecture as rubbish, he still poured his heart and soul into it.
He did.
We see that in the challenges he faced. Like with the Dome of St. Paul's.
Absolutely. Constructing a dome of that size was an unprecedented feat of engineering in England.
Wow.
Then there was the problem of supporting the lantern. That massive 300-ton structure that sits atop the dome.
Oh, wow.
It's like a Boeing 747 perched on top of the cathedral.
You're kidding?
I'm not.
How did he even solve that?
Wren devised a brilliant solution.
A
triple-skinned dome. It's essentially 3 domes within one. Each serving a different purpose.
Wow.
The inner dome creates that awe-inspiring space. The middle dome provides the structural support. And the outer dome, clad in lead, protects everything from the elements.
Wow, that is ingenious.
It is.
It's more than just beautiful architecture. It's a testament to his problem-solving skills. And speaking of problem-solving, what about all those churches?
Right.
Each one must have presented its own set of challenges.
Indeed, limited budgets. Awkward plots of land.
Demanding parishioners. Wren had to deal with it all.
Wow.
But he thrived on these challenges, coming up with creative solutions that were both practical and aesthetically pleasing. Take the Church of St. Stephen Walbrook, for instance.
I've heard of that one. It's famous for its dome, right?
Exactly. Wren designed a stunning coffer dome.
Wow.
Supported by 8 Corinthian columns. all within a relatively small rectangular space.
Oh.
It's a marvel of spatial ingenuity,
Right.
showing his ability to think outside the box and create something truly unique.
So we see Wren not just as this grand architect of palaces and cathedrals, but also as someone who cared about those smaller community spaces.
Right.
It makes him feel more human, you know?
Yeah.
Not just a name in a history book.
And that human side comes through even more when you look at his personality, his struggles, and how he reacted to setbacks. You mean like when he almost had a meltdown over the rejected St. Paul's design?
Yeah.
The podcast mentioned he actually wept.
He did.
That's not the stoic genius we usually imagine.
Not at all. It shows that he was deeply invested in his work.
Yeah.
Passionate about his vision. And yes, he could be demanding and uncompromising at times.
Oh, right.
But he was also resourceful and resilient.
Okay.
As we see with the warrant design episode.
And that resilience wasn't just about bricks and mortar.
Right.
Remember, this is a man who lived through the plague.
Yeah.
The Great Fire of London.
Oh.
Political upheaval.
Wow.
He knew a thing or two about bouncing back from adversity.
He did. He faced professional setbacks, too. Towards the end of his life, he was effectively ousted from his position as Surveyor General.
Wow.
When a new king came to power,
Yeah.
a king who favored a different architectural style.
Wait, what happened? Didn't everyone love Wren's work?
Tastes change, even in architecture. By then, the architectural pendulum had swung towards Palladianism, a style that emphasized simplicity, symmetry, and strict adherence to classical proportions.
So Wren's ornate Baroque style was considered out of fashion.
It was.
That's wild.
It is.
It's like he was the Steve Jobs of architecture. Only to see his company taken over by a new generation with different ideas.
That's a great analogy.
It is.
And it's a reminder that even geniuses aren't immune to the whims of fashion or the passage of time.
It makes you think about legacy, doesn't it?
It does.
How do we measure success and lasting impact when styles and priorities change so much?
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's not just about the buildings themselves, but the stories they tell, the emotions they evoke, the way they shape our understanding of the past.
It's like Wren's buildings have witnessed so much history. Joy, sorrow, resilience. They're more than just structures. They're containers of human experience.
That's a good way to put it.
And that brings us back to the million-dollar question.
Okay.
If architecture was just rubbish to him,
yeah,
how do we reconcile that with the incredible legacy he left behind? It is a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It is.
This man who achieved greatness in a field he considered inferior to his first love.
Yeah, you know, it speaks to that multifaceted nature of genius.
It really does.
Wouldn't we say?
Yeah.
Wren may have felt a pull towards medicine. But he found himself immersed in the world of architecture, and he excelled at it.
I get the sense that despite all his accomplishments, Wren wasn't one to just rest on his laurels. You know?
Yeah.
He was always striving for something more. The bigger.
Yes. Our podcast expert described him as restless, constantly pushing boundaries.
Remember his plans for Whitehall Palace? He wanted to create a palace that would rival Versailles. A symbol of British power and grandeur.
It's amazing to think what London might look like today.
I know, right?
If those plans had come to fruition.
We might have a completely different skyline.
We might indeed.
And it wasn't just grand palaces.
Wren
was also deeply interested in scientific advancements.
He was.
In fact, he was one of the founding members of the Royal Society.
Oh, wow.
The leading scientific institution of the time.
Hold on, the Royal Society.
Yeah.
Isn't that the organization where Isaac Newton presented his groundbreaking work on gravity?
That's the one.
Wren and Newton were contemporaries.
Wow.
Both giants in their respective fields.
That's amazing.
And they actually crossed paths on more than one occasion.
Really?
The podcast mentioned a meeting where they discussed something...
Like what?
As mundane as the railings on the roof of St. Paul's.
Imagine being a fly on the wall for that conversation. Two of the greatest minds of their era debating railing.
It's a reminder that even geniuses have to deal with the practicalities of life.
They do.
It also speaks to that collaborative nature of great achievements.
Right.
Even someone as brilliant as Wren relied on the expertise and input of others.
That's such an important point.
It is.
None of us are islands.
No, we're not.
We all need to collaborate.
Right.
To share ideas.
Yeah.
To learn from each other.
And I think that's a key part of Wren's legacy. That spirit of innovation and collaboration that he embodied.
Absolutely. And it's a legacy that goes far beyond individual buildings.
It does.
Wren's work helped to shape the very identity of London.
It did.
Transforming it from a medieval city into a modern metropolis.
It's like he wasn't just building structures.
Right.
He was building a city.
Yeah.
A nation.
Even an empire.
His work became synonymous with British resilience.
Yeah.
And ambition.
It's no wonder that St. Paul's stood as a symbol of hope during the Blitz.
It did.
A testament to the indomitable spirit of the people.
Right. Architecture isn't just about bricks and mortar. It's about the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we aspire to be.
And in that sense, Wren's legacy is as relevant today
as
it was centuries ago.
Absolutely.
He showed us what's possible when we combine vision, ingenuity, and a relentless pursuit of excellence.
And while he might have considered architecture rubbish compared to medicine, I think history has proven him wrong.
It has.
He may not have cured any diseases, but he created something just as powerful. A legacy of beauty, ingenuity, and enduring inspiration.
So the next time you find yourself in London, take a moment to appreciate the work of Sir Christopher Wren.
Good advice.
Look up at the dome of St. Paul's.
Yeah.
Wander through one of his many churches.
Right.
Or simply stroll along the streets.
And
imagine the city he helped to create.
You'll be amazed by what you discover.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the life and legacy of Christopher Wren.
We hope you found it as fascinating and insightful as we did.
We did.
Remember, there's always more to learn.
Yes.
More to explore.
Right.
So keep digging.
Okay.
Keep questioning. And keep discovering.
Great advice.
Until next time.